So, welcome everyone. My name is Carrie Woodward, and I'm the Director of Graduate Admissions here at SUNY Plattsburgh. And I'm joined by Doctors Morgan and Galetta from our Speech Language Pathology Master's Program. And we have about an hour-long presentation that we have prepared for you this evening. We have a slide deck that we are going to run through, but we certainly welcome your questions throughout. If you would like to share those in the chat, that would be great. We can respond to those asynchronously, and then we'll have a couple of times throughout the presentation where we'll pause and we'll invite you. Where we'll pause and we'll answer questions live. So because this is a webinar, we aren't seeing you and we won't hear you, but if you enter questions in the chat, we'll just either answer those offline or if we think it's something all of you might be interested in hearing the answer to, then we'll address it live. So it looks like everyone's joined us at this point. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So Dr. Morgan and Dr. Galetta, if you could please introduce yourselves, that would be great.
I'm
Dr.
Elizabeth Galetta. Nice to meet everybody. Nice to see you. Um, and I am a professor, an associate professor in the Department of Communication Sciences and Disorders. And we're happy to share information about our department with you.
I'm Dr. Morgan, and I teach undergrad and grad courses here as well as work in the clinic, as does Dr. Galetta. And we look forward to our time together tonight and all the questions that you might have, so don't be shy.
And as I said, my name is Carrie Woodward, and I'm the Director of Graduate Admissions, and this is our team. And so throughout the application and enrollment process at various times, you may have an opportunity to interact with different members of the team. So Michelle St. Ange is our Assistant Director. And then we have Morgan, who is a Graduate Admissions Advisor. And Morgan tends to be the ones interacting with the applicants the most. So if you hear from anyone directly in graduate admissions, it's likely to be either Morgan or Grace. Grace Rassico is our graduate assistant, and Grace is a current graduate student at SUNY Plattsburgh. She is enrolled in our clinical mental health counseling master's program. But we'll talk a little more about assistantships later in the presentation because we do have those available for incoming students throughout various administrative offices and also within the academic program, within the speech language pathology program itself. So we'll be happy to share a little bit more information with you about that as well. So for these next few slides, I'm going to go ahead and ask Dr. Galetta and Dr. Morgan to speak, and then I'll jump back in a little later on to talk about the application process and aid opportunities.
Thank you so much. So I'm really happy to talk to you about speech language pathology, which is a field, as I'm sure you know, that really specializes in communication. And one of the most important aspects of daily life is the ability to communicate with others. And this is the profession that helps people do that. And, often those of us who don't have communication difficulties, take talking for granted. Yet people with communication disorders really are appreciative of the help and the work that we do with those folks. Our profession requires a diverse set of skills and talents. And once you become a speech language pathologist, there are many options in terms of careers and locations for work. You can work in a hospital, a school, early intervention. So, with early intervention, you might work in a program in a school or go into people's homes for that, private practice, over telehealth. Telehealth has been really taken off since the pandemic. In addition, you can work in skilled nursing facilities and other outpatient clinics. And a really wonderful thing that I have really enjoyed as an individual that works as a speech language pathologist is the curiosity that continues throughout working with folks in the capacity as a speech language pathologist. It truly is a lifelong learning career.
I'll speak to this slide, and this is one aspect of our program. We try to keep our incoming classes fairly small, and small is 18 to 20. This year, due to the popularity of our program and maybe some other things, we have a few more than 20. But we really do try to keep it small. And regardless, it's still fairly small. We know our students really well. Things that we are very proud about is that we get to know our students as individuals. They're not just numbers to us. And so it gives us a little bit more ability when we're working with them to have that high level touch to where they get to know us and we get to know them and their learning styles and can help them with their learning a little bit more. Our curriculum is comprehensive, and Dr. Galetta is going to speak to that in just a moment on the next slide. But you certainly will be prepared for your first job when you get done with our program, due to a wide variety of things, some of which is even on campus. We have our own clinic. And in our own clinic, there are so many opportunities for learning with a wide variety of clients. And that can include the clinic that we have here on campus where you work individually with clients, or we have a lot of groups that our clinicians are going in and working with. And some of those are telehealth. For example, Dr. Galetta helps with telehealth. One group, they do reading and writing. Another group, they do reading and spelling. And there's an in-person aphasia group too, as well as an aphasia choir. So those are all different learning opportunities where you can work with these individuals. And it's a very rich learning environment. We also have groups of what's called partners in transition, where our clinicians are working with individuals who who have autism or who might have some developmental disabilities and are going to be transitioning out into the community more and trying to work with communication skills with those individuals. We have a group that is called Speak Out to work with individuals who have Parkinson's disease. We also have clinicians going over to the Accessibility Resources Office and working with college students on executive functioning. And we also have a traumatic brain injury group because we have an organization that actually is housed here in our building of individuals who've had traumatic brain injury. So we have the opportunity to work with them. We also in this building have a preschool or a daycare. So we have what would be considered a preschool play group of clinicians going and working with those young children. So those are just some examples that our clinicians get with groups, but there are other things such as going into our local hospital. We have a clinician who is hired just by us and the college, a speech pathologist who's worked there many years and works to train our students in the hospital setting. And so great opportunities for our students of a wide variety of learning. Another thing we pride ourselves on in our department is have an inclusive learning environment. We really honor differences and people who bring their own experience to the classroom and to the clinic and enrich our environment in that way. And so there's a great way of building community that is very respectful. And that kind of community is one that allows for a very comfortable learning environment. And I would add one more thing to that, and that is that not what is not true of all departments is that sometimes you have some professors that have egos or there might be personality conflicts, but we don't have that in our department. We all get along really well. We're friends. We have a wonderful learning environment for our students. So there are no kinds of conflicts to maneuver in your learning environment. So, Dr. Galetta.
This slide talks about the breakdown of the coursework over the semesters. So as you can see here, in the first year, the first semester we're calling fall year one. And then the second semester to the right of that, we're calling spring year one. And then we have summer semester right after the first year, and then fall year two and spring year two. So it is 2 full years with the summer in between. And the courses are broken up such that each semester will be some courses. And also it includes clinical courses. So if you look at fall year one, the first year, I think what really unique is the clinic right away. So you get into our clinic, that is listed there as clinical practicum level one, CSD 542. And the great thing is you just start working with clients right away, and you get sometimes paired with a second year student, depending on the case. We have a systematic and tiered level grading system. So you would expect more support, give you more support as your clinical supervisors in your first semester than in your second year when you've had a couple of semesters under your belt. And so I think that is a really positive thing about our clinic. I will also say that everyone who works at our program supervises in the clinic, which I think is also a major strength of our clinic, because you don't have separate faculty and then people supervising in the clinic that don't teach your courses. We all do everything. So I think that's a really positive thing. And then you also see there in fall year one, you will take an evaluation course, CSD 540, evaluation of communication disorders. I happen to teach that class. And that's a class where you learn about the process of evaluation. And then you will take evaluation clinic where you actually see clients for evaluations in the spring of year one or the fall of year two. Half of the students take evaluation clinic in the spring of year one, and half take it in the fall of year two. So that's a really nice setup. I'm not going to go over every course that is offered, but it's systematically, you are prepared for the courses you take. One other example is, for example, in fall, you take neuroanatomy, which Dr. Morgan teaches. And that's a wonderful course. I know it's a challenge, but students learn so much. Do you want to talk a little bit about the brains in that class?
Oh, that we actually have real human brains
Yes.
that we use as we're teaching. Yes. So indeed we do.
Yes, I think that makes it unique also. I think that's a unique experience. And in spring of year one, for example, a course such as aphasia, which really is an acquired language disorder, secondary to brain damage, secondary to acquired brain damage. And so students have a nice foundation of what is going on in the brain before they take the aphasia class, which is necessary and really wonderful. So those are some examples in terms of sort of the systematic way the courses go. And really, you take all of these courses. So it's not as like undergrad where you have a ton of choice because these are dictated through the ASHA requirements. So advising isn't so challenging because everyone in the cohort takes all of the classes. But it's very well thought out and planned. So when you take the courses, you're ready for them. As I said, you start in clinic in fall one, you take clinic again in spring one, in fall, in the summer, that we don't have a clinical semester currently in the summer. Students take 2 courses in the summer: cognitive rehabilitation and alternative and augmentative communication. And then in fall two, you have clinic again, and that would be your last clinical course on our campus. And then in spring year two is when students do their off-campus internships. And our clinical director is amazing and really helps students get internships in locations that are both convenient to them. Many students get internships closer to home or where they want to work so they can start networking and making connections in that community. Yeah, so that's what I'll say about that.
I might add that we also embed things in courses that aren't shown on this curriculum, such as counseling. We talk a lot about counseling with families and patients, and we also prepare our students to work with a wide, diverse body of people. And so those are the kinds of things that get embedded in courses that don't show just specifically in these words for the courses themselves. As Dr. Galetta was just saying, there are wonderful opportunities. We have contracts with lots of places, and they can be a variety, whether they're medical settings or schools or rehabilitation centers, or we have early intervention places and the agencies where our students can go and get their internship work done. So we have some that are local, but uh, as Dr. Galetta was saying, we have the ability to do a contract in a place that may be where you grew up or near you. And one, it's a lot cheaper because often students will just live at home and then they will do their internship that semester. So it saves a lot of money to do it that way. But it also is one that we can set up, but we have to have the time to do it. So you'll start talking with the clinic director pretty early if you want to do an internship near your home and we don't already have a contract with that place. We'll have to set up a contract, but she's certainly willing to do that. So great opportunities for you. And when you are working near where you live, you may want to end up living there. And if that's the case, it's great networking because those professionals, if they don't hire you where you do your internship, know other professionals in that area. And so that kind of networking certainly pays off very well.
Thank you so much. So at this point, we're going to pause for questions.
Carrie,
Um,
did we miss one slide?
oh, did we?
Was there one? What's the slide before this one? Not that one, the next one. Keep going. There.
You did this one. I think while you were talking, this slide was up.
Oh, okay.
So you were talking about these things.
Yes, I was.
Yes. But we were actually on this slide. So there may be some things you want to add there.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'll let Dr. Galetta talk about this slide.
Okay.
Sure. So as we mentioned, we serve as professors. We also serve as clinical supervisors. So we have a nice transition of what is teaching in the classroom to what is being done in the clinic. I think the fact that the professors are also clinicians and supervisors is a really strong plus to our program. Um, and as was mentioned in terms of the experiences, there are opportunities to gain experience in a hospital setting while you're a part of our clinic. So we do have a potential clinical rotation that some students that are interested in the hospital setting do as when they're still in our clinic before they head out to internship. Um, and then also, as Dr. Morgan mentioned, in terms of counseling skills, while the counseling is really embedded into all of our classes. So when I teach my disorders classes, we really talk about how to counsel families and patients regarding their disorder, as do all of the faculty. So there's not just one separate class on counseling, it's really integral to all of the classes. And then in the clinic, of course, as well. A big part of our field is counseling. And so we do work with the speech and hearing mechanism, but it's not, the speech and hearing mechanism are a part of the person. So we work with the whole person. And so, and certainly, I think if we hadn't had a lot of experience with counseling throughout the pandemic, we got even more experience with counseling because of all the challenges with the pandemic that everyone was going through. So students really learn about techniques in terms of how to engage in those conversations with folks. And we wanted to be sure to mention that all of our students pass the praxis exam. So in order, once you complete our program, you don't need to pass the praxis, frankly, to complete the program, but you need it to practice. And so we're very happy to know that our students who take a comprehensive exam, a COMPS in our program, and pass that, they also pass the national praxis exam. So they are well trained and ready for that, which we're real pleased about as well.
Thank you. Okay, now I think we're ready for questions. And when we started off, I may have mentioned, please place your questions in the chat. It's possible it's called Q&A on your display that you're seeing. So either way, go ahead and drop questions in there. We've received one already that I'll go ahead and ask live. So one of our participants asked if there is any opportunity for undergraduate students to take non-matriculated classes to fulfill prerequisites for graduate school through this program or through another program at Plattsburgh.
Let me understand the question. So if somebody is an undergraduate student, do they wish to take graduate courses or to take other courses that are required to get into the grad program?
Yeah, the question was non-matriculated classes to fulfill prerequisites for the graduate program. So
So
it would be undergraduate.
yeah, so usually so for undergraduate courses, students can in a non-matric take those courses, certainly. There are also programs with certificate programs where some of them are even online. So if you look around, uh, you can certainly do that. But if you're local and you're interested in doing that, one can, as a non-matric, take those courses that are required to get into the graduate program, certainly.
Yes. And if you would like to do that, there's a quick and easy one-page form that you fill out, and you can find that on the registrar's webpage at plattsburgh.edu. It's called the non-matriculated student application form. And any semester that you want to take non-matriculated classes, you'll just fill out, you have to do it every semester that you want to take non-matriculated classes. You submit that one-page form to the registrar's office, and then that will just get you set up in our registration system so that you're able to go in and register for the classes that you may need. So we have another question that's come in. How is knowledge tested in classes and clinics?
I could take that one. I think it varies on the professor. I don't think that there's one way that knowledge is tested. I think there are, formal tests where you might be writing short essay questions or answering multiple choice questions. So it's kind of like standard testing. There are also presentations, case studies. I use a lot of case studies in my classes where you have to maybe work with a partner and talk about determine the diagnosis and a treatment approach for a client. So I think it depends on the instructor, but I think there's a variety of ways that I think most instructors engage in assessment. And in terms of clinic, um, students engage in evaluation and treatment sessions, and they have supervisory meetings with their supervisors every week. So they're not tested like an exam format in the clinic, but they have to demonstrate competency in the skills in the clinic, and they're rated on those skills, and they know really where they stand. They get a lot of feedback on that.
That's great. Okay, another question. How many clients would one expect to have during clinic?
It depends on what year you are, what semester you're in, because you start off with fewer clients than, say, your first semester, and you are often paired with a second year student as you're getting your feet wet in the clinic, if you will, learning the procedures, the paperwork. So you don't get loaded up with clients in that way. And then you'll have a couple of clients, and then by the second semester, then maybe you have 4 clients. Maybe you have 5 clients. It just depends, because some clients will come once a week and some clients come twice a week. And so it's a little bit of a different workload when you're seeing somebody once a week versus twice a week. Or as Dr. Galetta can speak to, if you're in a group And that's even a different situation doing group work versus individually with a client. So it's if we put groups into that, then that adds up very quickly. But as an individual, you're not doing the whole group. It's a group of clinicians working with that group. And typically, one clinician is more responsible for another person in that, a client in that group. And so it seems like there are more clients, but you're more responsible for one of the clients. Is that how you do your groups, Dr. Galetta?
Yes, that is. So I have two groups of people with aphasia, and we have one lead clinician each week. There are four clients in each group and four clinicians in each group. And so each clinician is primarily responsible for cueing one person in the group that they know very well what strategy will work for that each week.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other open questions, but Dr. Morgan, are you seeing where those questions are coming in? And maybe you could just keep an eye on that. Either of you could
Sure.
respond to those. Yeah, that'd be great. So if you see any more come in, go ahead and you can respond to those asynchronously, or if you think they're better answered live, we can go back and do some more live questions when I get through the admissions section of the presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the application process a little bit, and then I'll talk about some financial aid opportunities that we have for our graduate students as well. So you may already be aware that we do participate with the SIDCAS application at Plattsburgh. So you will not submit the SUNY Plattsburgh graduate application. You will go to the national SIDCAS application, and you can add us as a school there. The SIDCAS application will very clearly delineate for you all of the application requirements, and you will submit your documents there. So everything gets submitted through SIDCAS. Your transcripts get sent to them, letters of recommendation. They handle everything. They collect everything. They will verify when the application is complete and ready for our faculty to review it here at SUNY Plattsburgh. And then at that point, we have an integration. We load your application into our system. And you will know that SUNY Plattsburgh Graduate Admissions has received your SIDCAS application when you receive a thank you for applying email from me. It'll probably be from me. And it'll basically just outline the next steps in the application process. And so then from there, we kind of turn things over to the faculty within the speech language pathology program. And Dr. Morgan has been heading up that effort. I believe you're probably doing that again this year, where he kind of coordinates the review process by the faculty.
Dr. Galetta is going to do it this year, but I'll help as much as needed.
Okay, great. So yeah, so it's a team effort. I think there's a committee who review the applications. And I think that the very first question that's being asked at that point is who will be invited for an interview. So we require an interview of all of our speech language pathology applicants who make it to that stage of the process. And the interviews are scheduled via Zoom. So shortly after your application has been completed and goes through the initial faculty review, you'll receive contact from us to arrange that Zoom interview. And then an admissions decision is made from there. So the deadline for 2026 admission for the semester that will start at the end of August in 2026, the fall semester, the application deadline is January 15th, 2026. And you may see for a long time, the application deadline for this program was February 1st. So it's possible that you may have already seen a reference to a February 1st deadline in materials or on the website, but the deadline is January 15th, and that will be reflected on the SIDCAS application, and we will be communicating that to you as well. So make sure that you not only have your SIDCAS application submitted, but all of the required materials should be in by that January 15th deadline. That is a firm deadline. So applications that are submitted after that date will not be considered for admission for fall 26. So very important to meet meet that deadline. And you really need to, because of the SIDCAS process that I described, where they're going in and verifying applications before they get released to us, it's really important. I would say you want to aim to kind of have your application done by the end of this calendar year would be ideal. So that SIDCAS has a couple of weeks at minimum to complete the verification process and release your application to us by the deadline. Once you receive that thank you for applying email from me, you will also receive a link to a portal where you can check the status of your application. So there'll be a checklist there of any missing items, which there should not be missing items. If the application was verified by SIDCAS, it should be complete. And then you can also find your admissions decision in that portal once it has been released by us. And then finally, I just wanted to mention that we are planning an accepted student day for students who are being offered admission to the speech language pathology program for fall 26. And the date that has been selected for that, if you want to go ahead and pencil it in on your calendar, is February 27th of 2026. So that February 27th accepted student day will be hosted here on our campus in Plattsburgh, New York. And you'll have an opportunity to meet our faculty on that day, meet students who are currently enrolled in the program, tour the clinics, and meet other students who are being offered admission for this coming fall. And I think we did this for the first time this past spring, and I thought it worked out really well. I think I can see that the students who attended that day, who are now in our first year cohort, seem very close. And some of them are close because they also attended SUNY Plattsburgh as undergraduate students. But others, I think, really enjoyed getting to meet each other at that accepted student day and then stayed in touch with each other, between the time of that accepted student day and when classes started in August. So it's kind of nice to already know some people, have some familiar faces, maybe talk to people about where are you planning to live? Do you have a roommate? Just put you in touch with individuals who you're going to get to know quite well over the next couple of years and who will probably be colleagues throughout your career. So this is just a quick bulleted list of the additional application documents that are required along with the application. All of these are submitted via SIDCAS, as I mentioned previously. We no longer require standardized tests, but if you've taken standardized tests and you would like those to be considered with your application, you are welcome to submit those as well. So there was a question earlier about prerequisite courses. So there are 4 courses that ASHA requires for certification. So those are listed there, starting with the biological sciences. You can see that list of those 4 courses. So our faculty, part of what the faculty are doing when they're initially reviewing your application is confirming that you have those 4 prerequisite courses. And then all of the following 5 courses listed at the bottom are required as well. These are all courses that are offered at SUNY Plattsburgh as part of our Communication Sciences and Disorders Bachelor's program. So if you're completing that program here or a similar program elsewhere, you most likely will have met these prerequisites. But if you're missing any, as we discussed earlier, you could take those here as a non-matriculated undergraduate student or at another institution that may offer a certificate program that's designed specifically as preparation for a master's level speech language pathology program for those who don't have a bachelor's degree in communication sciences and disorders. And I think SUNY New Paltz, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the more popular ones with students who are applying to SUNY Plattsburgh. It's another SUNY school, and they do have that 1 year certificate, undergraduate certificate program, and it's offered online. So that could be an option, but I know that there are many others as well. So in terms of dates and deadlines, this is a fall only start program. So as I said, classes will start at the end of August in 2026, and that will be the only opportunity to initially matriculate in the program in 2026. So it's very important, again, to meet that January 15th application deadline so that you can be considered for admission. And as you heard, the application deadline is January 15th and the accepted student day is February 27th. So the faculty, they're going to be turning things around pretty quickly between the January 15th deadline. I'm sure they'll be hopping in there shortly after that deadline to start reviewing and selecting individuals for interviews. Perhaps they will even start offering interviews before the January 15th deadline. I'm not sure. Maybe you might want to comment on that, Dr. Galetta. But then in your offer of admission, we will again invite you to that February 27th accepted student day, and tell you what you would need to do if you wanted to raise your hand to participate in that. Did you want to add anything about the interview selection, Dr. Galetta?
We will likely not be interviewing before January 15th, likely. However, we're still working out the details for that. But we will definitely be interviewing well before the accepted students day. Will be certainly the latter half of January and the beginning of February at the latest.
Great. And again, just a reminder, if you have questions coming up at this point about the admissions process, feel free to drop those in the Q&A and we'll get to those as soon as we can. These are the graduate school costs. We are a public university, so probably just about the best deal going in terms of a graduate education to become a speech language pathology professional. So you can see the tuition and fees there for a New York State resident are below $14,000 per year. If you do choose to live on campus, which graduate students are welcome to do, the bill with the housing and the meal plan is going to be closer to $27,000 per year. And then we list for you the out-of-state tuition and fees, as well as the on-campus bill for out-of-state students there too. But the vast majority of our students, about 90 to 95% of our students at the graduate level overall are New York State residents. Though this is a program that has attracted some out-of-state students in the past, I will say there probably are a couple every year that are from outside of New York and or international. Okay, so now we're going to get into talking a little bit about financial aid. And when it comes to the FAFSA, I know that this is something most of you are probably already familiar with, filing the free application for federal student aid, which is something that you've most likely already been doing in your undergraduate studies. But I just want to emphasize that you should continue submitting the FAFSA application as a graduate student. And the FAFSA for next year is available now, so you want to go ahead and submit it now or soon, to be considered for aid opportunities starting in the next academic year. And the reason for that is, unfortunately, there's no equivalent of Pell or TAP at the graduate level, but there are some unsubsidized loan opportunities. There's also work study that's available for graduate students. So I do encourage you to submit the FAFSA at the graduate level, and we'll prepare a financial aid information sheet for you, and that will be shared with you through the My Plattsburgh portal, through our Student Financial Services office. Okay, now I'm going to talk a little bit about graduate assistantships. So this is something that's very different at the graduate level versus undergraduate. So many of our graduate students will apply for an assistantship. And an assistantship is pretty much a work obligation that you would have on campus, in one of our academic departments or in one of our administrative departments, where you would be working either 10 or 20 hours a week in exchange for tuition coverage, either full tuition coverage if you're doing a 20-hour position, or 50% tuition coverage if you're doing a 10-hour position, and then also a stipend. And the stipends range depending on the assistantship, but the amount of the stipend, which is paid out biweekly, ranges from $3,000 up to $10,000 per year. So we do have more information. If you scan that QR code, it'll take you to our graduate assistantship webpage. And because you're submitting the CIDCAS application, you need to submit a graduate assistantship application if you want to be considered for one of our assistantships here. Other students who apply on the SUNY Plattsburgh application are able to apply to the GA positions through the admissions application, but CIDCAS doesn't allow us the opportunity to do that. So there's a separate application that we have for all of our speech language pathology applicants and for our current graduate students as well. So Dr. Morgan or Dr. Galetta, I don't know if you might want to comment on some of the GA positions that we have specifically within the academic department.
They vary by year and because they have to be approved every year. And I think we might have two next year. And one might be related to the clinic director and helping the clinic director. Uh, Dr. Galetta, do you have one next year? Yes, so you can speak about that.
Yeah, so mine is related to work with adults, research related to work with individuals with acquired neurologic disorders. So like folks with aphasia.
And if
And
you,
it involves, I was going to say involves research and also like preparing for like a presentation at a conference.
And I think that's pretty typical. The graduate assistant that I have this year, we're working on a presentation. We have a wonderful poster session that we want to do about congruence with people who've had a certain surgery on their vocal folds for gender affirming voice. And so we want to incorporate that into a research study and do a poster session on that for ASHA, which will be in Indianapolis, not this year, but next year.
excellent. And if you go to that graduate assistantship webpage, following that QR code, you'll see descriptions of all of the GA positions that are open for applications for next academic year. And you can select which of those you would want to be considered for. So you could select, the few that are in the speech language department directly, or you or sorry, you can also or you can select GA positions that are within our administrative areas. So for example, graduate admissions has a GA position, and as a speech language pathology student, you could be a graduate assistant in graduate admissions because we're agnostic when it comes to the particular graduate program that you're enrolled in. Whereas obviously if you're going to work in speech language pathology as a GA, you're going to need to be a speech language pathology student. Okay, so fellowships. So remember I said you should really consider submitting the FAFSA because graduate students can be eligible for work study. So at Plattsburgh, we have a unique federal work study program that is specific to graduate students. So if you're eligible for federal work study, which most graduate students are, because the income is based on your income, not your parents' income. So most graduate students qualify for work study. So as long as you qualify for work study, we can award you a fellowship where you would be working 10 or 20 hours a week and you would be paid at a rate of $20 per hour. And that rate was specifically selected because if you work 20 hours a week at $20 an hour throughout the academic year, you're earning enough money to pay New York State graduate tuition. So that is a great opportunity. That is a separate application that you have to submit in addition to the assistantship application if you'd like to be considered for that. And those are due by February 15th. Okay, just quickly with campus housing and community living, as I said before, we do have housing available on campus that is specific for graduate students. It is in DeFriedenberg Hall and in Kent Hall. We don't have full residence halls that are dedicated to graduate students, but we have floors and suites that are graduate students only. And typically students within the same program will choose to live together. So it makes a nice living and learning environment because you're taking your classes with your cohort, you're in clinic with them, and then you're also sharing space with them within the residence halls, studying, building community, getting to know each other. So it is a great opportunity if on-campus living is something that might be of interest to you. The other opportunity that comes along with living on campus is that you can apply for some paid positions like community advocate or assistant community director, where you could be eligible to receive a free single room with a discounted meal plan, or if you're at that assistant community director level, you can even have a free apartment on campus. So I would encourage you to look into that if living on campus is within the realm of possibility for you. There's some great opportunities there where you can combine even something like an assistantship with one of these positions in our residence halls that would give you some great benefits in terms of your living on campus and your meal plan. The Diversity Fellowship is another, it's a separate application, also due by February 15th. This is a program that requires you to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. And we're just asking students to submit an essay where they demonstrate how they've had to overcome a disadvantage or an impediment to success in higher education. And we also are asking students who want to be considered for the Diversity Fellowship to tell us how you think you could contribute to the diversity of our student body and also to your future profession. So you'll be asked to submit a brief essay, and we have a committee of faculty and staff who review those Diversity Fellowship applications and make decisions on the awards for the upcoming year. We typically have about $50,000 per year in diversity fellowships that we're awarding, and we will award some full tuition fellowships and some partial tuition fellowships. There's also the Graduate Opportunity Program. This is a program that is specifically for individuals who have graduated from EOP, HEOP, or SEEK programs. So if you were enrolled in one of these programs as an undergraduate, you would know that you were enrolled in them. And then you could indicate on your application that you were enrolled in one of these programs. We do ask that question on the CIDCAS application. If you indicate that you did graduate from EOP, HEOP, or SEEK, then we will send you the link to the Graduate Opportunity Program application. Every student who applies for this, as long as their EOP enrollment is verified by the EOP director of the institution where they graduated, every student will receive funding through this program. So annually, we have about $30,000 that we award in GOP funding, and it's basically divided by the number of people who apply for it. So the size of the awards varies from one year to the next, depending on how many applicants we have. And again, this is a February 15th deadline, and it is its own separate standalone application. And then lastly, we do have some program-specific funding opportunities available for speech language pathology that you can see mentioned here. I don't have a lot more information on these. These are not SUNY Plattsburgh funding opportunities. They're through external organizations, but you can, again, scan that QR code for more information about how you might apply for those. Okay, so we've come to the last slide, which is pretty much just stay in touch with us, whether that's through the graduate admissions office. You can reach us at graduate@plattsburgh.edu, or you can see our phone number there. And you can also see email addresses for Dr. Morgan and for Dr. Galetta, who I'm sure would be happy to hear from you. And then our social handles are there as well. And our graduate assistant, Grace, is pretty active on our social media platforms. So if you want to follow us there, start getting a feel for some of the things that are going on within our graduate community, that would be fantastic. Just to give you a little bit of a sense, we've coordinated a few events already this semester for our current graduate students, and they were very well attended by our cohort of speech language pathology students. So the first was in September. We did a welcome back event at the Valcour Conference Center. They have a lovely rustic boathouse there that's right on Lake Champlain. And we did like a fall harvest event there where we paid for students to come, and we had some great food and snacks available there, had some custom drink options available for students, and we had live music there. And so the students really enjoyed that. You'll see pictures of that on our Instagram account. And then just last week, we took a group of graduate students to a local orchard that's called Rolf's Orchard, where they did apple picking, and they took a wagon out to the pumpkin patch and picked out pumpkins that they were going to bring back to their residence halls and to their apartments. And they just kind of socialize, get to know each other better. We provided them with some cider and some donuts there, and they just enjoyed the time together. So, and we're already planning another event for next month. We're planning to do a wreath making event for graduate students. So it's just some fun ways for graduate students to get out and meet other students who are enrolled in graduate programs at Plattsburgh who they may not get otherwise get to meet, because I think what happens is that graduate students in particular tend to stay very closely within their academic units. They get very close with the other students who are in the same program as them, but coming to these events gives you a chance to network outside of your own program as well. Great. So let me see if we have any more questions. I'm not seeing any questions in the Q&A. I don't know if Dr. Morgan or Dr. Galetta, do you have any closing remarks? Anything you'd like to add or words of advice?
Well, we're speech pathologists, so we can talk. It's in our field. No, you have worked hard as undergraduates, and I think one of the things that students through this process somewhat unduly get overly anxious about it. There are so many opportunities in various colleges to get accepted, and you have to think that it isn't all just based on your GPA. We take a really good look across who the person is. What are the letters of recommendation saying? During the interview, it's not an interview where we're asking hard questions. It's more of an interview of how's this person going to interact with people in our clinic? That's more of what the interview is. So it's just that interpersonal skill that the person will need to have to interact with the public and kids in our clinic. And so there are skills that you already have, and you need not be overly anxious about it. Everybody's a little anxious about it, but getting overly anxious is non-productive. So that's my word of advice.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Galetta.
I was just going to say, we really look forward to reading your applications and meeting you and welcoming you to our program. It's a very welcoming program. And I think you would really like SUNY Plattsburgh. I just want to say that. I think you'd really like it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Galetta and Dr. Morgan, for your time this evening. And thank you to all of our participants for joining and for the good questions. We did record the webinar tonight, so we will get that ready to go out. We'll probably send it out to everyone who registered tomorrow. Oh, hold on. Maybe a question just came in. Let's see if we can answer this one before. Oh, nope, it's just a thank you. You're welcome. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye. Thank you.